We have entire think pieces about boomer real estate hoarding. We have documentaries about millennial financial anxiety. Gen Z can't buy a coffee without someone analyzing their spending psychology. But Generation X? They just sit there, quietly, doing something with money that doesn't quite make sense on the surface. Your Gen X colleague who has a six-figure investment portfolio but drives a car with 180,000 miles on it. The uncle who negotiates every bill down to the last dollar, but books a last-minute flight to see his favorite band without a second thought. The friend who lives in a modest house, dresses like it's still 1997, and somehow has zero financial stress while everyone around them is drowning. They're not confused. They're not contradictory. They're operating from a completely different psychological blueprint than any other generation alive right now. And once you understand where that blueprint came from, everything clicks. Because Gen X didn't just grow up in a different era. They grew up watching a promise get made, and then watching that same promise get broken in the most brutal way possible. That moment, that specific betrayal, rewired how they think about every single dollar they earn, spend, save, and owe. That's what we're unpacking today. Picture this. It's 1985. You're 12 years old. Your dad comes home from work. Same time he always does. Same company he's worked at for 16 years. Dinner's on the table. The mortgage is being paid down on schedule. There's a pension waiting at the end of the road. The formula is simple. Show up. Work hard. Stay loyal. Retire comfortably. You watch it work. You believe it. Now fast forward to 2008. You're 35. You followed the formula. You did everything right. And you just watched your 401k lose half its value, your home equity evaporate, and your secure company hand pink slips to people who gave them 2 decades of their lives. The formula didn't just fail. It lied. And that betrayal didn't just sting. It permanently altered how an entire generation thinks about money, security, and trust. Because Gen X didn't experience one economic shock. They experienced a sequence of them. The early 90s recession, the dot-com collapse, September 11th, then 2008, each one arriving just as they hit a new life stage, just as they were starting careers, buying homes, raising kids, building something. Over and over, the rug got pulled. And here's what that does psychologically. When instability isn't a one-time event, but a repeating pattern, your brain stops treating it as bad luck. It starts treating it as the default. Security stops feeling real. Stability starts feeling like a trap waiting to spring. That's the foundation everything else is built on. So what does that foundation actually produce? Some of the most misunderstood money habits of any generation. Start with income. Gen X doesn't trust a single source of it, not because they're ambitious, because they're scared. Federal Reserve data shows Gen X has higher rates of self-employment and secondary income streams than both boomers and millennials. But most of them still keep the day job. They're not trying to quit and live their dream. They're building escape tunnels while keeping the main exit open. Because they remember watching someone get walked out of the office with a cardboard box after 20 years of loyalty. No warning, no safety net, just gone. That image doesn't leave you. So you build the side income, not for growth, for insurance. And then you build another one, just in case. And then there's how they handle wealth once they have it, quietly. Almost invisibly, a Gen Xer might be sitting on a paid-off house, a healthy investment account, and 3 income streams, and you would never know. No flex, no lifestyle creep. The car is old. The clothes are unremarkable. The vacations don't make it to Instagram. This isn't modesty. It's camouflage. They grew up watching people who showed off get humiliated when things went wrong. The neighbor who bought the big house and lost it in foreclosure. The co-worker who leased the luxury car and couldn't make the payment 6 months later. So they keep it invisible. Because to Gen X, the safest wealth is the kind nobody knows about. Here's a contradiction that confuses people. Gen X has zero loyalty to corporations, but intense loyalty to brands. An Adobe study found Gen Xers are 34% more likely than millennials to stick with the same brands they used in their youth, even when cheaper options exist. They'll quit a Fortune 500 company via email, but they'll drive across town for the specific coffee shop they've been going to for 15 years. The psychology is straightforward. Institutions betrayed them. Products didn't. When a corporation lies to you, you get a severance check and a form letter. When a brand consistently delivers, it becomes one of the few reliable things in an unreliable world. So they hold on to it. Not out of nostalgia, out of necessity. In a world where the rules keep changing, consistency becomes its own form of wealth. That same need for reliability shows up in how they keep records. While younger generations trust the cloud, Gen X keeps paper. AARP found that over 60% of them maintain physical files of important documents, compared to just 34% of millennials. They built the internet. But they also remember when databases crashed, companies lost records, and digital promises quietly evaporated. They trust technology to work most of the time. They trust paper to work all of the time. It's not paranoia. It's redundancy by design. Digital banking app? Yes. Paper statements filed in a drawer? Also yes. Cloud storage? Sure. Fireproof safe at home? Obviously. And yet, despite all this caution, Gen X is the generation that spends the most on experiences. Eventbrite data shows they outspend every other generation on concerts, travel, and live events in actual dollars. And yet, the 2023 Transamerica Retirement Study found that 70% of Gen X say they're genuinely terrified about retirement, despite having the second highest 401k contribution rates of any generation. Financially paranoid and experientially extravagant at the same time, saving more than anyone while spending freely on things that can't be taken away. And it's the same psychology driving both. They save obsessively because systems can't be trusted. They spend on experiences because stuff can't be trusted either. Your house can lose value. Your car depreciates. Your possessions mean nothing when the economy tanks. But that road trip in 2003, that concert, that weekend with old friends, nobody can repo a memory. The bank can't foreclose on the trip you already took. You can't lose a moment in a market crash. They figured that out long before anyone gave it a name. Psychologists call the savings behavior defensive pessimism. You assume the worst, prepare obsessively, and stay covered when it happens. It's exhausting as a lifestyle. But for a generation that's been burned this many times, it's less of a choice and more of a reflex. It's just how the brain learned to survive. So here's what Gen X money psychology really tells us. They're not contradictory. They're not stuck in the past. They're adapted, specifically adapted to an economy that made them a promise and then quietly changed the terms without telling anyone. Every habit that looks strange from the outside makes perfect sense once you understand what shaped it. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Not just about Gen X, but about all of us. Your money habits aren't random. They're responses. Responses to the world that formed you, the losses that scared you, the moments that taught you what security really means. Gen X just learned those lessons the hard way, in real time, with real consequences. And they never forgot.